Okay, so here we go. Rhyme or free, it doesn't matter to me. It's my bad poetry. Good day, and welcome to My Bad Poetry, a podcast where we take a deep dive into our poems from youth, yesteryear, or even yesterday, always asking the question, why in the world did I write this? I'm Aaron.
And I'm Dave.
And today we have with us the co-founders of, you know what, Dave? I'm going to have you pronounce that.
So, yes, Scribente Maternum.
Oh.
So, Aaron, the letters, like each individual letter makes a different sound, and they interact with each other to make a word.
So anyway, this group, co-founders, it's an incredible group of mothers supporting moms in the creative pursuit of writing, coming to us from 3 different time zones, I hear. So this is incredible. Rachel, Carla, and Elizabeth, welcome to My Bad Poetry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the name, who came up with it? When was it coined?
Our fake Latin name. We were throwing around ideas for things that sounded scholarly and maternal at the same time. And you add to the end of everything, right? And it just makes it instant Latin. So we turned maternal into maternum and scribente, scribes, writers, that sort of thing. We all came up with it together.
Yeah, we did. Well, and we have kind of a sister organization called Pen Parentis, which is also kind of fake Latin. And so they serve parents more generally. And so it was kind of, I think, a play on that we're like, oh, we love Pen Parentis. And then eventually we came around to it. And it was coined in 2020 when we were deep in the pandemic and Scribente got started.
That's awesome.
We didn't want to call it mothers. We wanted to call it mamas because it kind of got to the heart.
I love that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand it's not the actual ablative participle construction. It's a functioning locus construction. So using the poetic plural.
Yeah, gosh, I thought that was obvious.
Yeah, I had to dig through some books to really figure it out. But yeah.
Wow, you put a lot more thought into it than I think we did.
Not a lot more thought. I'm just a lot more boring than y'all.
I don't know. Maybe we should add that description to the website.
Oh, you guys, yeah, if you didn't realize, Dave is the linguist in the group. He likes his Greek.
You can say cool person. That's fine.
That's
cool. Yeah, we need more linguists.
Yeah, and Rachel is the grammar person in our crew.
Nice. So you mentioned this other this pen group. Was that before the pandemic? And this is like a spin-off group, or
not a spin-off?
Yeah,
not a spin-off. Yeah,
just we were inspired by them and the work that they do.
Awesome.
And we were really rejecting the notion during the pandemic when so many mothers were trapped with their children. That meant that our creativity had to also be trapped and be stifled. And we realized, though, that even though our children were such a source of inspiration for us, especially during that incredibly difficult time, we also recognize that mothers in particular need to get far away from their children in order to tap into that creativity and to connect with each other. Writing is very siloing. Being a mother is very siloing. And we had mom friends, we had writer friends, but we didn't really have the community of writer moms. And Elizabeth and Carla and I had that with each other. And during the pandemic, we're like, well, where can we go to find a retreat for moms who write so we can really tap into this in the space we need? And when there wasn't anything, the 3 of us just created it.
The other part of that is we didn't want to be the ones that defined what motherhood was for someone. We wanted people who thought of themselves as mothers to make that definition. We also understood that not all mothers have young children, they have grown children. So that had to be really included in the mix. And the idea of during the pandemic, we consider it a dual pandemic because there was a lot of things happening around the George Floyd, and we wanted to honor that space too.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
It was really a difficult time, and we wanted to just honor the idea that mothers were in an interesting place in isolation for the most part in 2020.
So is that mission of recognizing all sorts of moms why you kind of landed on maternum, like that maternal instinct versus just like mother?
Exactly. Yeah, we say that anyone who identifies as a mother is welcome in our space. So aunties, friends, cat moms, right? They're all welcome here. As long as, the space is very focused on our role, our maternal role. So if that's a place where you feel comfortable, then you're welcome here.
That's so cool.
And we were clear to think of mothers who felt distance from their children, mothers who had lost children, mothers who, especially same parent mothers who didn't feel like they were the ones that actually birthed the child, those mothers, trans mothers, all of any definition of motherhood.
That's great.
Yeah. And I mean, really looking at it as the person who takes that maternal role, and it kind of doesn't involve just one gender. So that's, it's something that we do in the spaces. It ends up often being, femme identifying moms, but it really, I think in our virtual spaces, especially, it really brings a wider variety because we all can kind of come to that space. And anybody who's asked us like, well, I don't have a child myself. Can I come? And I was like, yeah, of course, as long as you're okay with us talking about our kids all the time. I mean, and that is the thing, is that we do, it kind of is that shared experience that we have, that kind of, and I think a lot of us find ourselves in the primary parent role, which often happens to be the mother. And that's, I think, a lot of, we talked about it during the pandemic, and that, mothers largely ended up finding themselves out of the workforce because they were also educating their kids while also working, or they were the ones that went part-time. And, we feel it on a day-to-day basis, but during the pandemic, it was really heightened. And then it's even more so for mothers of color who are also experiencing the structural racism on top of all of the other things that women and mothers experience. And so it's compounding. And so we really are, that was kind of where we landed.
Exactly.
And and we had our first retreat was virtual because it was February 2021. No one had vaccines yet. And we started from nothing, and we had 50 people attending 4 weekends in a row. I mean, it was like, almost, and it was, I think it was just clear that we all needed it and that we had something, and we've kind of grown from there. And now we have annual in-person retreats, but now we're expanding in 2026 to multiple retreats a year. The virtual spaces are really incredible, which it always surprises me that we can create community like we can in virtually, but the in-person retreats are magical. Like they're transformational, and like, it's just this like sense of, I don't know, every time Rachel and Carla and I like come out of our retreats, we're like, how do we do that again? Like, it just happens every time. And a lot of it is who comes. Yeah. And everyone's bringing their whole selves, and that shared kind of role and identity helps to kind of create a basis of understanding.
That first one, though, was magical in that 4 weekends in a row, 4 hours in a row, every mother was engaged, and we knew we were onto something. No one walked away in those 4 hours. They were just engaged, contributing, and we knew, okay, this is special. And then we had the first live one, and all bets are off now. And we love the idea of calling it Right Like a Mother retreat, because the mother could be a little sassy, and that helped too. And it helped people understand that we were not we're kind of cool.
Yeah. Don't take yourself too seriously. I love that.
We're so cool.
Okay, before we dive into poetry, you all three identify as writers, but I realize there's a lot of different genres out there of writing. Is there one that each of you like in particular to work with?
I am primarily a nonfiction writer. So I do a lot of journalism, but then also I write about climate change, climate justice, and I have a Substack called Cramming for the Apocalypse. And so that's where a lot of my energy is. I don't know if I told you, Rachel and Carla, this, I submitted a short fiction story, speculative fiction piece that also is related to climate change, because it's what I think about all the time. I can now say that I dabble very lightly in fiction, but primarily a nonfiction writer.
That's wonderful.
I'm also almost exclusively nonfiction. My day job is writing textbooks and lesson plans and things like that for teachers in classrooms. I used to be a high school English teacher, and actually until my son was born, and then I started writing, and now writing is my full-time job. And I think that the marriage of what I do for a living now was a bit of the impetus for Scribente Maternum, because if I hadn't become a mother in the traditional sense that I did, I never would have become a writer. I would have still been a very happy English teacher, or, working in communications or any of the other jobs that I had before I was in the classroom. But I always thought that writing was like saying, I want to be on Broadway, or I want to be a movie star, right? It's not a real job. Being a writer is not a job. And it is my job now because of my kids. So this notion that there's this mommy penalty, right? This idea that you don't get to do the job you want to do because you have kids. Once you have kids, it's over. I'm living my dream job now because I had kids. So I get to write a lot of nonfiction. I'm working on a text right now about Minnesota history, which is really fun. But I write for all sorts of different states and curricula and that sort of thing. But that's like my job. If I'm looking at writing that I like to do, it's still probably nonfiction. I try to write fiction, right? But I think nonfiction writers have such a hard time with I just can't write dialogue. I don't know how to get it to sound like people talking, right? I'm a journalist as well. I have a journalism background, and so I just want to put the tags in like it's like I'm reporting for my college newspaper again. So I'm comfortable with nonfiction.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I am a poet, and I'll share a few things with you, but also I write literary fiction. I love all kinds of writing, nonfiction, poetry. And I just knew when I was born that I was going to be a writer. I mean, I saw things in a way, the way I observed the world, the way people talked, the way they moved. I come from a family of storytellers. My husband's a storyteller. Just people that kind of being around people that really just kind of get you to see almost like words in pictures. I don't know. There's something fascinating about just being able to create a story out of a movement that you see on the street, like somebody engaged in a conversation. And we had come from a very big family gatherings. And the kitchen table was a place where you just heard stories. Lucille Clifton used to say, once a poet, always a poet. So I kind of claimed that. I started out a poet. I'll show you a little picture. I shared with Rachel and Elizabeth the other day because my mom passed away in 2013. My mom and my older brother passed away in 2013. And I can actually say that now and smile just because of being blessed by their love. But I was able to, after my brother passed and we had to kind of clean out my mom's house, I came across some of my old sketchbooks about my poetry. And I found this. You can't see it very much. It makes a declaration that I am a poet. So when I saw that, it's like, oh my gosh. Now, the thing is, I also drew this. So I'm an artist, but at the time, I remember being able to look at things and draw them. So I couldn't like sketch from my imagination, but I could look at something very easily and sketch it. But that declaration there tells
Carla,
you.
how old were you when you did that?
I think it had to be middle school and high school.
Wow.
Oh my God, I love
But
that
here's
so
the
much.
thing, and this is why this is so crazy when I see this. It wasn't until I was in 6th grade that I actually discovered Black poets. Because I was kind of like a fiend going to the library looking for all kinds of books. My sister and I would just get stacks of books, check them out. And then one afternoon I was going, doing that little finger thing, going from spine to spine, looking for the right poetry book to bring home. And on the bottom shelf, on the very bottom shelf, I discovered all these Black poets: Lucille Clifton, Nikki Giovanni, Haiku Mutabuti, who was at the time Donnell Lee, Jane Cortez, all these, Sonia Sanchez. And I'll never forget sitting on I was this little skinny schoolgirl, but sitting on that floor for hours in that library, falling in love with all these writers who all of a sudden identify with me. And the key thing was I ended up taking a book called Black Feeling, Black Judgment, Black Talk from Nikki Giovanni. And years later, she would become my wintergreen sister and sign that book. So I don't know. It feels like a magical story to me because it kind of solidified that I knew what I was doing in 6th grade.
Oh my God, I love that. I love that. Did you took the book from the library and then you had her?
Nice.
I love that. It makes it even better.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Willingboro Public School, the public library. That's what it shows from. But yes. But I also run as a literary nonprofit in Baltimore called City Lit Project. And it's, we do all kinds of things with all kind of writers and all kind of genres. And while it takes away from my writing, it does keep me connected to it. I have finished a first draft of a book called Where the Spirit Meets the Bone. I can't wait to kind of get it out there in the world, and working on the second draft and a couple of people trying to get it to the public eye. That's my story.
That's incredible. Wow, I feel like we've been brought into the realm of poetry.
Yeah.
Dave, how about you bring us into the realm of bad poetry with whatever you've hastily written for this week?
That's something I feel up to.
Good.
After hearing about this incredible group and how you've incorporated everyone into it, it's about time we hear poetry from a straight, cis, het white guy.
Oh, Dave.
Yeah, give them the platform.
Yeah, finally.
Oh.
Okay. So this is an after poem
Ooh.
that I am calling an observation of what was happening in my Bluetooth headphone. I'll talk about the poem that I wrote it after once I finish reading. The noise bounces into the hammer and anvil, clanging for what, I wonder? His annoying whine spines at nothing. Oh, to know Aaron's mind. So last week we weren't able to record. So Aaron recorded some little snippets of poetry that he had written with his daughter. And Aaron's poem was one of the worst things I think I'd ever heard. And I am so proud of him.
Aw, you wrote an after poem of my dog poem.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, well, thank you for that, Dave. I don't think I know what's in my mind, so good luck with that. But we have now moved into the realm of bad poetry. So I'm wondering, I just mentioned that I referenced my daughter's poetry in kind of our little filler episode last week. So maybe it would be a good springboard into Elizabeth. I think you have shared some of your children's poetry.
Rachel also has her daughter, which is what inspired me to include my sons.
Okay. So whichever one wants to start us off, let's hear some of these bad poems that you have shared with us.
Rachel, why don't you start?
But okay, so her poem, it came with an illustration, which I think you really just need to imagine. Okay. So this is called I Love Toilets by Berg Scherer. I love toilets because they make me happy when skies are gray. I love toilets. That's it. That's it. That is her verse.
The picture said it all, though.
Yeah, it was a picture of a poop emoji in a very fancy toilet.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
The best.
It had volume.
yeah. Now, is it from the perspective of the poop emoji or from the pooper?
That's an excellent question.
That's a great question. I mean, when I was teaching English, we always had to talk about who the speaker was, right? The speaker is not necessarily the author. I think the I in question in this poem, I think the illustration is 100% from the perspective of the poop. It's very happy, smiley poop.
Man.
I think the speaker in the poem is really just anyone who's just, had that experience. Yep. It's universal.
Say that with a straight face.
That's impressive.
I taught high schoolers.
Yeah, that's your
right?
years of English teaching.
Yep.
Well, you gotta give her props for the nice parallelism of the opening and closing line. That's beautiful.
Indeed. We talk a lot about parallel structure around here, so just in casual conversation.
There you go.
We really actually do.
I love that. Oh, well, I mean, props to her. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what about your bad poem?
My poem is very bad. It's maybe even worse than the parallel construction of the poop poem. As we've said a few times, I taught English, and We did a lot with like, different simple poetry, right? Like teaching the kids how to write haiku, even like sonnets, right? Just with or without the iambic pentameter. And we also did a whole unit on Limerick, which was just so much fun because the kids got to be goofy and silly. And my friend Laura and I were in Ireland not too long ago, which is actually why I chose this one. I know you know her. And Carla and Elizabeth know her too. Everybody knoes Laura.
I don't know Laura.
Hi, Laura.
You
We
do.
love you.
It's Laura from seminary, Dave.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay.
Everyone knows Laura.
Apparently.
So she and I were in Ireland and we were in the town of Limerick, like our train, we were sleepy on a train and we just happened to stop in the town. We didn't get off the train. We just sat for like 2 minutes and looked at the town named Limerick. Oh. And I'm like, well, this is just, someone has to write, a Limerick while we're sitting here. And she's like, I don't want to do that. And then the reason that, so I did, which I'll share in just a hot second, but the reason that I'm sharing it is because that moment to be able to get away, right, to find myself in a whole new place with a friend, with another mom who I don't get to spend a lot of time with, and find creative inspiration in just the street sign that I saw, just felt very Scribente Maternum to me. So this is my really bad limerick that I wrote in Limerick. There once were two girls from the States who decided they needed a break. So they packed up their bags and went searching for crack. C-R-A-I-C, not, So they packed up their bags, went searching for crack, but this train means they can't stay awake.
So it's technically a poem.
It's technically a limerick. It has the rhyming convention. It has the place, right? Someone from somewhere.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's what my 10th graders would have done, and I would have said, "Hey, you got it."
It was the crack word for me, though.
Yeah.
Like,
But the crack, does that rhyme with bags?
Yes, it can.
Okay, yeah, because you just said very confidently that this has the rhyming convention, and states break away.
Break awake.
Yeah.
We were very tired on the train.
No,
what part of that memo didn't you get? Yes.
he's exhausted. Everything rhymes.
Somebody had to write a poem.
I think also when you're, after years of being with sophomores, I'm like, hey, you know what? There's nothing about Nantucket, and so that's
You gotta take it one. So
I keep trying to get Nantucket limericks.
Dave tries. I cut it out every single time. So crack. Define this word because you had to pause and spell it out for us. Yeah.
I did. It's one of those Irish words that just is quintessentially Irish, right? It means like a good time, uninhibited fun, just quintessential Irish good time.
Uh-huh. Where's the
If you've ever watched Dairy Girls, it is.
I have
thrown
seen
around.
Dairy Girls. Oh, I'll have to. I would watch that show over again.
Such
So
a good
good.
show. Such a good show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
I think maybe if you pronounce bags with a Minnesota.
Bags, crack.
Bags and crack.
Bags
Yeah.
and crack. Yeah.
Yeah, that might work.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
Bags of crack.
Oh wow. Well, that was so enjoyable. It might be the first full limerick that we're allowing on this show because, like Dave said, he tries. He tries.
I try.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
It's too bad that you couldn't get off the train in Limerick.
We had a destination. We had a place to be.
You were searching for
She
that
and I
crack.
We were searching for crack. Yeah. Me and my pastor friend were looking for crack. Which we found in, we found it in the dingle.
A crack in the dingle. Okay.
Mazel tov. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, we did 4 days of hiking once we got to where we were going. And we did find a lot of writing inspiration just along the sea and in these back paths that we found. And Yeah, I find that some of my best writing inspiration, even for bad stuff like this, that's just goofy and silly, just comes from being in a certain place. And I had a little notebook in my bag the whole time we were hiking and wrote down gems like this and other stuff. So
I love it.
Pretty cool.
Elizabeth, you've just hastily written something here as Elizabeth's bad poem. Do you want to explain what's just appeared in our document?
Well, it's related to my son's poem.
Perfect. Okay.
I didn't just write it. I just wrote
Got
it.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I should clarify. I did write it today, but not just now.
Should we transition into yours?
Sure. Yeah, I have a performance of my son
Oh, my
reading it.
goodness.
Would you prefer that? Yeah, because it's a song, which is also a type of poem.
Oh, yeah.
So actually, when Rachel shared Ruthie's, I was like, oh, Ruthie and Finch have the same sense of humor. This is called Ninja Fart by Finch Doerr.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Everyone farts! Yeah! Everyone farts! But ninjas fart the most. Ninja fart! Uns.
Oh, it's a beautiful. So he made me film him doing it, of course. And so he wrote this song and he wanted me to perform it for me and have me video it. And I mean, basically this is the moment he's in. He's 8 years old and he has somehow found on Spotify this whole playlist that is all like fart-based music. And, So, but it's related to my poem, which should I read it and then explain it?
Go for it.
Okay. Well, I'll just also note that I find writing poetry really difficult no matter what. It's not my thing. And so I was like, I don't have any poetry. I was like, and Rachel's like, I was like, can I share a recipe that I found? And she's like, write a haiku about the recipe. But so instead I wrote a haiku in relation to just farts.
I love it.
The word.
Yeah.
Okay. We could not say fart. In our house, we said pooter. Here, fart is allowed.
were we all counting on our fingers?
We could not say fart. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So the last line was the harder one to figure out. Yeah. So just some backstory.
Sure.
My mom fart was a bad word in our house.
Same here. Growing up. Yeah.
I don't know if that was just a generational thing because I know that. And then but the word that we said was far worse, which was pooter. And it's even saying it now makes me kind of throw up a little bit in my mouth. But in our house, the word fart is allowed and obviously used often. And it is also the basis of a lot of our family jokes. And so, I mean, I think that, my husband and I are matching my 8-year-old's maturity level and trying to relate to him. And so but it also I don't know, farts are really funny. And I think that that doesn't go away as an adult. It is always funny. And so yeah. I don't know if I like the word. No, I like the word fart. I'm going to just say it. It's a good word.
Yeah.
And that is the backstory.
I have a 10-year-old grandson who, he likes that word too.
It's a very popular word.
Totally overused. Oh yeah, absolutely popular.
Yeah, I mean, I did have to put sometimes I'll give my son the phone while we're driving so that he can control Spotify. And I had to put a moratorium on anything fart related because I was like, can we just listen to music, please? So there is a limit. I do have a limit.
Yeah.
Well, but here, fart is allowed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's allowed.
The word and the action.
I guess it's one way to release things, isn't it?
So I do want to explore a little bit of this haunting word here, pooter. In my household, it was past gas was what was allowed.
I mean, that
Yeah.
sounds way less gross than pooter.
My mom, who up until last year, she's now retired, taught special ed preschool, would call them fluffs in her classroom.
That's cute. Toot is a cute one too.
Toot
I
is-
think a
yeah,
toot,
toot's fine.
especially like a little toddler saying toot.
Tooted. Yes.
We couldn't say butt in my
Oh,
house.
same. We couldn't say it either.
Say
Yeah.
butt.
Bottom.
Bottom. Yep.
Bum.
Sit on your bottoms. Yep.
This is something that I have struggled with for so long because I had a friend who couldn't say any replacement words for swear words, but then he found workarounds, and like when he got upset, he would yell frass, which is bug poop.
Oh.
Like that's so it's like he's saying the same thing. He means the same thing. Why is that better than whatever?
Yeah.
I give up. Language is stupid. I mean, no one would sit around and talk about language or writing or anything like that.
And we could debate the evolution of language and going from Latin plurals to now.
All kinds of things.
What Latin plurals,
I don't
Aaron?
know.
We were talking about Latin ablatives.
Oh, ablatives. I'm sorry.
Ablatives with a B. Oh my gosh.
I like you, Dave. I like you, Dave.
Well, there's a first time for everything. Someone enjoys my crazy.
Carla, you have a journal with you on your desk from middle school, high school. Do you have anything from there that you're willing to share?
Well, I have. Honestly, what strikes me about this poem that I'm going to read to you is the writing is very, very neat.
Okay.
I mean, right now I have like little chicken scratch when I write. So when I'm looking at this, it's like, wow, I was very precise.
You were very careful with your poetry.
Yes. And I realized at that time, I remember being very prolific and I wrote about everything. So I shared with Rachel and Elizabeth yesterday. I wrote like several poems, and here's just the titles of some of them. No matter what happens, ... I still love you. Another one is There is a Poet. One is called Judgment. One is called A Revolutionary Moment. But the one I'm going to read to you is called Until We Learn to Listen, Will We Hear?
Ooh.
When I read it, I was like, oh my God. So I'm going to share this with you. No judgment.
Judgment-free zone.
Yeah, that's what this show's all about.
Yeah, my kids say that. Yeah, no judgment, free judgment, or whatever you call it. Anyway. Okay. If we had talked to the people like Dr. Dolittle talked to Lassie the dog, Arnold the pig, and Winnie the Pooh, we would have been heard by now, don't you think? And of course, with what we had to say, not only would Milton flip his lid or Twiggy break her twigs, but Nixon would have tried to do the Bertha Butt, only to impress us Black folks, that is. And as long as people keep tuning their ears to love of life when there's nothing about life to love, and corny things like the Brady Bunch and the Partridge Family, we will never find time to check into ourselves. And who knows, with all these toothpaste giving us sex appeal, we just might be noticed.
Carla, you said butt.
No, I'm allowed to in my poetry. My mom knew I was like a rebel, so I could say butt in my poetry. But I absolutely laughed when I saw this.
Oh my gosh.
What age were you when you wrote that?
This one I was in probably 8th grade. But again, I was like a little bit of a spirited person. But I did eventually write a poem called Them Changes. And it was about the idea of a God that people saw and believed in. But in my eyes, in that poem, the God turned from white to black. And then all of a sudden there was a question mark.
Oh.
So again, that one got an award at Rutgers College. I'll never forget.
That's so cool.
And
Oh my gosh.
I had 2 really wonderful teachers who loved the fact that I was writing. So they kind of helped spearhead that idea that I could be one.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So this poem got you to that, like it was your stepping stone to that award winning poem.
Yes. There were plenty others. There was one I wrote called "My Sister Is a Tramp." I don't know why.
Okay.
No, it could have been "My Brother Is a Tramp," but a friend of mine loved the poem so much she turned it to "My Sister Is a Tramp," and it's like, what were we thinking?
You were mad at your brother.
Yeah.
What were we thinking? But yeah.
So I loved the opening line. You referenced three things: Dr. Dolittle, Winnie the Pooh. What was the middle reference?
Lassie
Lassie.
the dog and Arnie the pig. And I don't know if you guys are too young to remember Twiggy.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
remember Twiggy the
I mean,
pig?
I
don't
know
know
of
Twiggy.
Twiggy. I don't
Yeah.
remember.
I laughed at that. And Milton, I guess that cartoon character who he had like a square head and he kind of flipped his lid. Do you remember that? I don't
Oh,
know.
I was thinking of Milton the
But he was
poet.
like-
But
You were going deeper. But it kind of like, it's, I don't know, sign of the times, right?
Yeah. Twiggy broke her twigs.
yeah,
And Bertha Butt.
that's like
Yeah.
You know how they used to do those toothpaste commercials, sex appeal, when they little gleam at your teeth, that kind of thing. So it's funny. It's funny.
I think that's
So
incredible
great.
for like an 8th grader
I know.
through high school. I mean, props to you.
I'm in awe of 8th grade Carla. I was not that prolific.
I'm still not that creative. This is unfair.
I knew I was going to be a writer because I walked around with notebooks all the time and pens and paper. And that's the only thing I really wanted, like near me. And sometimes sleeping with books. Really nerdy.
I love that, Carla.
Carla, when you read that back, is there any sort of like flashback of like memory to what might have spurred on that particular poem? Any context or clues that you might have to get you back to that mindset?
You know what? I think about, well, during that time period, you didn't see a lot of shows with Black families. In our family, because we were military brats, we were kind of like stuck together all the time, but there was no image of us until maybe the Cosby family came along.
Sure.
And there were some hints, but no, at the time there wasn't. So I don't know. I think I kind of was paying attention to that. Who do we see and who do we see images of at the time? So there's a lot of things going on in my head. Who knows?
You were very keyed into the media. I love that. That's amazing.
Well, the weird part is raising my kids, I kept them off of it.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it took a long time. I remember buying them those little flip phones. Everybody was having phones, and it's like they had the flip phones that only had a certain amount of money on it, run out. And the first time I got them a Verizon phone, my bill went straight up. And the child who I thought would not be the child who would do that is the one who did it.
Back when there wasn't unlimited texting, and
yes,
yeah, you had to really keep count of what you were. That was 25 cents a text added up.
Oh yeah, and the one who ran up the bill was actually a poet. So,
Those stinking writers.
They write too much.
They do it every time. They run up all kinds of bills, make all kind of trouble.
Oh, yeah.
But God bless them, right?
Yeah. This has been incredible. You all have shared just a variety of varying degrees of bad, from like the kids being expressive and just funny because they're kids, they're writing what they know, to an interesting rhyme of Limerick. And then just some incredible social commentary from a junior high kid who was really keyed in to their surroundings. I love this. What would you say to kind of your writer group about exploration of just like your embarrassing bad stuff?
One of the things that I think that we've had a lot of our facilitators say in various ways is that just write even though it's bad. Like it's the act of writing that kind of gets you to the point that you want to get eventually. And I think that it's like when we think about it too hard is actually when you're not creating something special or interesting, when you're like trying to piece together each sentence. It's kind of it's part of the process. That bad, like Carla's that poem was her practice for the eventual award-winning one. And I mean, like, I have to just kind of hash out what we call a shit draft or a crap draft to like just get my juices flowing. And then I can go back to it. You know, I might have to throw the whole thing out, but it doesn't matter. So I don't know. I think that that's just part of the process of writing, is to write badly. I mean, I'd say probably 80% of our writing is bad.
Oh, for sure.
And then the 10% is what others will see. And so I think to share it.
You're such an English major. 80 plus 10 does not equal 100.
80 plus 20%. Thank you.
I didn't even catch that, Rachel. That was incredible.
This is actually Rachel and my process, is that I write like and Rachel will go back and edit.
Nice.
Live time. That's what just happened.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. This is why I have to use a calculator when I help my child do his math.
This is why I don't help my child do math. But two, I think when you're writing, I always say you can't censor yourself. Like whatever shows up, you got to get it out. Just get it out, even if it comes out as a rush. Because bottom line, I always think the way it shows up in your head, really fine line. Because you can think of things and it's like, wow, that works. Yeah. And then you try to write it and it's like, somehow that process didn't show up on paper like it did in my head. But to me, the beauty of it is you get it down, all of it. It comes rushing out and all the emotion that goes with it. You step away from it. And when you look at it again, you might pull one or two things that you can work with. And that's the joy of writing, period. Yeah. Finding the joy in a few words that out of maybe tons, 200 words, you get two. Good enough for me to get you started.
You just got to pooter it out and then fix it from there.
Fart it out,
Fart it out.
Carla, I'm curious, after you found those old journals, has there been any inclination to maybe resurrect some of those poems or take some kernels out of there? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yes. Well, because my way of thinking is so different now, and because there's so many important, serious topics. What I love about looking at these old pieces is how I wasn't afraid to travel in territories I knew nothing about. Like there was one I shared yesterday was a Harlem Christmas. And it's like, I've not lived in this city or until I was an adult. So I knew nothing about that, but I wrote about it. So the joy of it was not censoring your experience to what you know. And some people say, write what you know. It's like, nah, it's more important to me or interesting to write things you don't know, because then you go into that business of discovering, right? So there's something about discovering topics that, you have no business maybe writing as an authority, but sheesh, find out. Isn't that part of writing too? Finding it out and discovering how you belong to it and it belongs to you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I think that's why I gravitate towards speculative fiction, because I think that the act of like thinking through it makes you expand your own creativity about this. I mean, for me, I think about it in terms of climate change, is that we only know what we know, but because we're not thinking about it outside of what we know, we're not thinking creatively about what solutions could be and are. And I don't know, that's what I love about speculative fiction, or speculative nonfiction too, is a thing. But yeah, it's.
Elizabeth, have you ever heard of Jared Beloff?
No.
Oh, he's a poet who we had on several years ago, but he wrote a speculative poetry chapbook called Who Will Cradle Your Head? And it's about, it's about climate crisis and exploring that, because he's raising his kids and worrying about their future. But he has this series of poems where he has Sasquatch observing the world that we have destroyed.
Oh my God. Okay. I'm definitely going to.
So yeah, that's, I think he would be an author to check out. But.
Well, it's wild too, because I was in a conversation the other day with another writer who is a poet, but he was talking about how AI is starting to filter in things And I tell you, it was like a bit of a drive home. He just kept talking about AI and the ways it's going to show up in our world. And out of it, to me, came like, wow, let's explore that. What happens when machines start doing all kinds of things we had not expected?
Yeah.
And as smart as they are, as smart as, now they're like, it's hard for professors to understand who's writing these papers. And there's all these AI checks. I just want to know how that's going to affect us in the future.
Yeah.
How strong and powerful AI is going to be that we're not even aware of. That to me is how that fits in poetry will be interesting.
We're not allowing ourselves to write that 80% of crap. We're just putting it through a filter. Yeah.
The 10%.
The
The other 10% is our.
The other 10% is AI at this point now, I guess.
And then the other 10%, who knows?
Oh man, I think we could have each one of you on individually. We could have you all on as a group again. This has been a blast. We're coming up to our hour, so we should probably wrap up. I want to just give an opportunity here if you all want to kind of plug or talk about how people can find your work as Scribente, or if you have individual things you want to talk about, we'll make room for that right now.
Yeah. Rachel, do you want to talk about Scribente?
Yes. So you can find Scribente Maternum at writelikeamother.com. There you can find information about our upcoming retreat this fall in Sedona, Arizona, and a little bit of overview of upcoming retreats in places like Bordeaux, France, and Sonoma Valley, California, and things like that. Throughout the year, Scribente Maternum does in-person events. We do a lot of in our chapters throughout the country. We have one here in the Twin Cities. We have one in Portland. We have a very vibrant chapter out in Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, San Diego, Louisiana, all over the place. Wow. And we're always looking, if you are on our website, on our Substack, scribentematernum.substack.com, and you don't see your specific chapter or your town, your city, we're always looking to expand that too. So there's all sorts of opportunities to meet with us in person that way. And in the springtime, we also do a lot of virtual events on the craft of writing, the business of writing, sessions with agents, writing teachers, that sort of thing. So there's all sorts of ways to connect with us. But I think the most pressing right now would be our retreat in Sedona. The early bird registration closes on July 1st. Okay. And we just have a few spaces left, just 2 or 3 is all. So if anyone wants to be part of that, they would want to get on that quickly.
That's great.
I can also say, too, I want to invite people to check out citylitproject.org. And wherever CityLit is, you will find Scribente Maternum. And I can honestly say this, it's citylitproject.org, playfully known as CityLit. But we can tell you that our writing retreats are an experience, transformative for many writers, that once you're part of it, you want to remain a part of it. When we did our first in-person retreat in Baltimore at the Clifton House, which is the Lucille Clifton's house in Baltimore, we've had writer mothers travel from Baltimore to Minneapolis to Portland, and now we hope to see some of them, and there will be some of them in Arizona. So it is a kind of community that once you're a part of it, you don't want to not be a part of it.
Yeah, we have a lot of repeat attendees.
Absolutely. It will change the way you feel about your writing.
And your parenting.
And your parenting. Truly.
So as we wrap up this, before we let you go, here at My Bad Poetry, we end each week with the words of a true poet. So would one of you be willing to share another one of either your poems or a favorite poem just in general?
I could read a quick Lucille Clifton poem since she's like
that would be great.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah,
I have this one just here. It's one of my favorites from her because she talks about her mom, and we talk about Lucille as our patron saint, but Carla and I have lost our moms, and so we think of all these legions of mothers, not just our own mothers, who are part of our organization too. So this is called "My Mama Moved Among the Days" by Lucille Clifton. My mama moved among the days like a dream walker in a field. Seemed like what she touched was hers. Seemed like what touched her couldn't hold. She got us almost through the high grass, then seemed like she turned around and ran. Right back in, right back on in.
Mm.
And what I really love about Lucille, right, all her poems are that long because she said that parenting all those children, she couldn't write long poetry. She could only write poems that were that long.
Absolutely.
That's incredible. Well, thank you all. This has been My Bad Poetry.
Now go write
Some of your
Own bad poetry.
Or whatever else you want to write, or what, you know,
Textbooks,
just whatever,
articles.
textbooks, speculative fiction, whatever.
Thank you all.
It's all good.
Thank you so much. This was so